This is Open Studio, a podcast where I invite artists that I know and admire to join me for unfiltered conversations about all things creative. My guest today is Prarthana Gupta. She works primarily as a set designer in the film industry, but she's also a very talented illustrator, a good friend, and an all-around creative person. Go and check out her work. I'll leave a link in the description. Also, if you haven't already, please go and check out my Patreon page. It's a great way to stay connected with everything that I'm doing, and a subscription, even in the smallest amount, makes a huge difference to me. Last thing before we dive in, unfortunately, the video file for this podcast was saved on an external hard drive that recently corrupted, and I haven't been able to salvage the file. So if you've been watching these in addition to listening, please excuse the lack of video for this episode. With that, let's get into it.
I like my 10 hours of rest.
Do you sleep 10 hours a night?
I would love it.
I sleep 10 hours a night.
You do?
Mm-hmm. I try to.
That's amazing.
It's
right?
awesome. I love it. Like I go to bed at like 10:30, and I wake up around like 7:38.
Okay, that's early.
To wake
I sleep
up?
I sleep like midnight 1 and then wake up like 11 something. 10, 11.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Wow, you wake up late.
Yes.
Damn,
I love it because
really?
nobody's home and I can just do my shit.
Oh, because David goes to work, or
Yeah, but
Okay.
he's in the other room. But
still, like you
He's
have
working.
your own space, basically. Yeah. See, that's
Yeah.
why I like the morning, because I feel like, well, like outside people are going to work and shit, but it
Yeah.
is kind of quiet and nice. Like I don't know, it's
Better
peaceful,
that way.
you know?
True.
Yeah. I like the morning.
Sometimes I like the night though for creativity.
Really?
It depends. I think now I completely lost my rhythm because of film, but it's like very random,
Yeah.
the times.
So, okay, wait. Are you more creative at night?
Yes, I do think so.
Why?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
I don't know. My brain is running faster somehow when I'm tired.
Oh, interesting.
Not that I've analyzed it too much, but I do consistently work a lot more in the night or when it's darker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Does it have something to do with like quiet as well, or is it?
No, I'm pretty used to like zoning out because when I'm on hyper focus mode, everything just goes away, but it's fine. And also, I'm from India. Noise doesn't matter.
You're used to it. Yeah.
I sleep through noises.
Prague is like a silent place compared
So
to
fucking silent.
I can imagine.
And
Yeah.
the traffic is great. It's not a city.
Yeah.
Because Bangalore, I have to schedule like 45 minutes for 5 kilometers. Minimum.
For 5K?
5 kilometers.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think I could live like that.
Yeah, no.
I like
Me neither.
That's what I like about Prague, is that it is a city, but it's still kind of peaceful and quiet
Right.
in a way. And like even I live on a pretty major road and I hear the traffic, but it's not
very
that
like
bad.
light.
Yeah, it's kind
also,
of
these windows are great.
yeah. I mean,
Checks like their thick windows.
Yeah, they
and
really do.
privacy.
that's so true.
I
yeah.
like them for that.
Yeah. And it's nice because like nobody can see into my apartment because it's all just like, all slanted windows. So I can
Yeah.
just do whatever I want in here. And it's very freeing, actually.
It's
yeah.
good.
Yeah. I have a lot of privacy, which is nice. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. For me, I'm way more creative during the day and in the morning. And
With like light.
yeah, I think it has to do with natural light. And also, like, I used to be the opposite, but I think it was also because I had like I'm not saying this is you, but for me, I had like worse living habits where I'd like staying up really late, or like I don't know, I just like wasn't as healthy, let's say, with like my structure of my life. And now, like being on a good sleeping schedule and waking up early, I find that like first thing in the morning, like have a cup of coffee, like slowly get into the day, but that's when I get the most work done. And then like once
Yeah.
it gets dark, I kind of just want to like relax. I don't really want to work anymore.
That's kind of nice though. My health habits are really bad because the first thing I do is doom scroll
Oh yeah.
and my morning is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so dangerous.
And I'm really trying so hard to like not doom scroll in the morning, but it's just
It's
No.
so tough, man. Like especially if you have your phone right next to your bed and it's like the
It
first
sets
thing
my
you
whole
pick up. It's
day.
I know. I do it as well. Like it's
Yeah.
the first thing I do in the morning is pick up my phone. And I wish I didn't. But now it's like more like if I'm working on a project I'm excited about, I can like leave more quickly. Like I'll do it for,
Yeah.
10 minutes instead of like 30 minutes.
yeah.
But-
I think the fact that I'm responsible with a lot of money with the work that I do. It kind of like pokes me to be responsible and like wake up and leave and get to work. So that's nice as long as I'm doing that. But when I don't have things to do, I'm just sleeping, relaxing, doom scrolling all day.
Yeah. So like you need kind of the external motivation to like get yourself going.
But also the external motivation has to be of value to me.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has to like satisfy me creatively, financially, and also like people-wise.
Wow.
If these three don't come together, I really don't work.
And
I don't.
it has to be all three? You couldn't just do like one or two?
Well, money is one thing that can go up and down, and I'm still fine with that. But definitely people and creative satisfaction. Otherwise, I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to do it.
You don't want to do it. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, that makes sense to me, right?
Right.
Because like for me,
Yeah.
I guess the money is not so much of a motivator for me. Maybe it should be, honestly, because I don't make a lot of money.
Learned it the hard way.
Yeah, I'm learning. But like definitely people is a big part of it. And for me as well, like being creatively fulfilled by something is very important.
Yeah.
Like I remember having a job once where I was like doing a lot of film production and screenwriting and stuff like that. And it was like not very creatively fulfilling, and it made
Desk
me pretty
job
miserable because like I wasn't invested in what I was making. And that's in a way that's almost worse to me than like having a job where you're not being creative. Because
That's
like
true, because
like-
you're just doing crap.
yeah, exactly. And you're like using this skill that I love, like trying to
Yes.
use my creative brain, but in a way that doesn't feel good. And it's like, why would I even use it then? You know, like I would rather do something monotonous and like,
Completely agree
useless.
with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's like I need the right kind of poking from the back. And I'm like, okay, this kind of works for me, this kind of creativity, but I'm also like trying to get myself in a mind space where I'm able to gauge how much effort I should be putting into it. Because also I'm still figuring out where I stand with my level of work or quality of work. And based on the client or based on the project, I'm trying to like, you know, put it on a spectrum and see how much effort and creativity I need to invest into this. And then I'm going to save everything else for something that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
And then my brain is like, poof, there's so much to go around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like it's like picking and choosing where you put all of that energy, because if you put it all into one project that you're not super excited about, then it feels kind of like a waste.
And it's just tiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What-
And also like I can finish that project with my eyes closed, like, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I just have to satisfy the client and that's it.
What are you working on?
Right now, I'm right now working on just preparing documents for school because I'm teaching, and that's taking a lot of energy out of me because I have to do a lot of research. The funny thing is, as a production designer full time, I know what I'm teaching, but I really don't know how to teach it because I have to go back to the basics, do the research, go remember all of the ABCs, put them down on paper because I have to go explain this to somebody else. And the somebody else are adults with adult questions. So it's constantly like super be correct, you know, just make sure you're giving them the right kind of information. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Like I need to do research.
Yeah.
So that's taking a lot of time. But apart from that, I just finished a project. So I'm on like a break from that. And I'm waiting for another project to get approved for the beginning of May.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Was this
It's
the
an
one
ad.
you showed me photos? Oh no, it's an ad.
The one that's happening in May.
Okay, but
Yeah.
the one you just finished, I remember you showed me photos of a set that you were building, and it was so cool. Like it was like this miniaturized, like,
Oh, yeah.
is that
That was
what you
also
finished?
an ad. It's finished, but I haven't seen the ad yet because we are a company that is outside of the production. So the production has the art directors and set decorators and whatnot, and they hire a company, and that's the company I work for.
Okay.
And it was an ad for Renault, the car.
Yeah.
And we had miniature cars, and the miniature cars had to like run around multiple times, and then there was a tiny camera in the back car, and that would follow through. So we had to build everything to look realistic. It was super fun.
That's
So
awesome.
fun.
I remember when you showed me the photos, and it like looked like fun to make. Like just dealing with different materials and trying to like recreate reality on a miniature scale. Yeah, it seems like there'd be a lot of experimentation with that, like figuring out what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, a lot. So even when we're making miniatures, we have to make models, and we kind of try multiple different techniques out, and then we come to a conclusion and then multiply it how many ever times we need it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Also, it's a lot of money being invested into it in terms of salaries for the people involved, because this specific project had about 30 people and we worked for about a month and a half.
Wow.
So that's a lot of salaries.
It's a big crew, yeah.
Yeah. And the shoot was for 2 days.
Isn't that
So
crazy?
it's like insane. But it does take a lot of energy and collaboration. And super, super, super creatively satisfying, because you're doing multiple different things. You have engineers that you're working with blacksmiths, you're working with carpenters, because you just have to come together and you're constantly learning new things getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is the most fun part.
It is. Getting messy. That's like, that's the best, right? I mean, look at what I'm wearing. Like, it's, I love being messy.
Yeah.
That's so cool. What's like what was one of the strangest solutions you found to something? Like if you were trying to recreate a tree, for example, or like some object, and you didn't expect how you would end up there. Is there something you can remember that was like really weird or interesting?
So there was one project where we were creating this costume for a learning app, and it was supposed to be a character. He kind of looked like, what's his name? Sully from Monsters, Inc.
Oh, yeah.
But orange in color.
Okay.
And then we had to literally make hair for the entire body. And he was as big as Sully, so like 2 meters tall. And the hair, it was really, really funny because we got long nylon wigs and we had to cut it up and we had to put hot glue on top of it and then kind of fold it down so it has a straight line, and then we cut it up and then stick it in. And that was like the craziest solution, because you would rather just find fabric with hair on it.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But we ended up literally like making long, like 10 centimeter long strips of hair on 10 centimeter wide strips again. And then we made like 1,000 of those, and then we literally stuck it with hot glue on the entire body. And this guy was 2 meters tall. And that was like super weird for me, because I was like, why would you not just buy fabric?
Yeah.
With fur on
was it cheaper to use the wigs, or?
No, it was just more realistic.
It looked better. Yeah. Because I guess then what you would get is like the different layers, right? If you're doing like one strip, then it'll move in the right way.
In different
in a
layers
sense, right?
as well, yeah. So when he moved his like big belly around, it would go like those hula dancers, you know? It looks so cool though in the end.
That's awesome.
I did have to trust my boss's process and just be like, okay, I'm just gonna do what I've been asked now.
Yeah. How much of the process is you like bringing your own ideas, and how much of it is you kind of listening to other people who are there?
So with this company, there are 2 guys, and they make the connections and they bring in the projects, and they analyze the kind of work that is required to execute this project vaguely, and then they hire the artists, who are all freelancers with this company. And once you get the project, you're kind of given a skeleton structure of how the final product should look like, with 3D models or like basically blueprints and plans and things like that. And the execution is, I'd say, 60% on us, because our bosses trust us as artists and they want us to kind of involve ourselves in making the process a lot easier, because we have to do a lot in very little time, because it's a job in the end of the day, right? So I'd say something like 60%, but everything is coming out of their plan. Yeah. So they have like the overall plan, and the smaller chunks of execution, we get lots of creative freedom.
Got it.
So yes and no.
Yeah. But it's good that you have, I mean, even any amount of creative freedom. Like that's, because I know there's like some jobs where, you know, on paper it's creative, and then you show up there and people are basically just telling you what to do. And that's not a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And it's also like, they would basically come up to us and be like, this is the end product I want. These are the materials available. Go have fun. So cool. In that sense, it's super, super fun, because it's like satisfying.
Yeah. And I think like last time I saw you, you were telling me to like, you just put your headphones in, listen to music, and just like make shit all day. And like, yeah, it's so cool.
I feel like a toddler finger painting. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's like the dream.
Just coloring in.
Yeah.
Doing minor details that's going to be lost in the larger picture, but totally satisfying.
And like, is it like, it sounds like a lot of it is also very kind of, I don't want to say tedious, but maybe like monotonous.
Yes.
Right? Is that something you enjoy as part of the creative process or not?
Well, okay. in this specific case, the fact that most of my colleagues do not speak English, I don't really have an opportunity to communicate too much. And also, since it's a job, everybody's like really working seriously toward the thing. So it does get monotonous, but in a way, after a point, it just gets mechanical, right? Your body takes over and your brain just switches off, and then the whole day's done. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I gotta go home now. And I just had fun all day doing nothing in a way, which is super nice, I think. Yeah. These projects happen once in a few months, so it's nice to like switch off.
Absolutely. I love that feeling. Like, and it's hard for me to get there unless I'm being creative. Like where I'm like, okay, when I'm doing laundry, for example, my mind is kind of wandering, but it's different. Like when I'm being creative and I'm doing something that's kind of like monotonous or something that it's very almost subconscious, you get into this like mode of thinking or being where it's like, it feels very open in my head. Like I'm thinking about a lot of stuff. Like, but at the same time, like I don't have to be super attentive to what I'm actually physically doing. Yeah. And that like little in-between space is like really amazing and satisfying.
It's like white space. Yeah. And you can do whatever you want in it.
Yeah.
And there's no pressure or like responsibilities, and you can just like chillax.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I bet you get the same thing from when you're making the tinier details, right? Because you have the blocks in.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, now I'm going to have fun.
Yeah. And it's funny. Like I used to see it as like, oh, fuck. Like I have to do a bunch of details. Like this is going to take me so long, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm trying to see it more as like an opportunity to like not be as active, switch off a little bit, and even just let my mind wander. I might come up with like an idea or something I want to change in the painting, whatever, and like kind of making the most of those moments. But yeah, it's really, really satisfying to get into that headspace. And it doesn't always happen, actually. Like sometimes it is just kind of like blank, or like, you know, I'm like anxious or worrying about things in that when I'm not being super active. But like every once in a while I get into this like kind of flow. And that's like, man, that's what I live for.
That's the fun part.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I can totally imagine doing that, because when I'm doing these jobs and I know I have a plan ready, I know I have all of the materials down, I just have to go on stage and dance. You know, like everything is prepared. I just have to go and have fun now. And that's the best part. Even with production design, right? So the project that I just finished, we built a 6-meter square cube. Meter square or 6
meters cubed?
Square cube.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. It's like 3-dimensional.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a frame with, you know, when you were kids, you would nail little nails on like a tiny board and then use thread to make patterns.
I remember that.
So we did that on a 3D scale and massive. Whoa. And I just had to create chaos. I loved it. I had all the materials down. I finished the model and I'm like, okay, so this is fun. I'm just going to go have fun. And then there's 10 of us, like people standing on each corner of the cube because it's like super tall. And then we were just throwing yarn at each other and then just playing because there's no rules. And it's just the funnest part. And I totally like enjoyed the 4 hours that I was doing that. And it took me though like 3 days to like get to that point.
Sure.
But the 4 hours was awesome.
It's amazing. Isn't it cool that you can get paid to do stuff like that?
You get paid to just paint in like sand.
Have fun. Yeah.
Throw yarn across.
Yeah. It's so cool. Yeah.
And also as creatives, once you kind of get established, I think people are paying for your speed of execution. Because something like this, I can imagine myself a few years ago take like 10 days to execute it.
Sure.
And now I can do it in 3, which is like awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're getting paid for, to kind of like make the speed and also be creative and maintain the quality.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's like, it's efficiency, but I think it's also like experience, right? So like if you've done something for 5 years or whatever, and you like really know it inside and out, and you can like, you understand it deeply, then you can get it done more quickly, but also probably more like at a higher quality.
And predict problems.
Yeah.
Like so many problems.
That's a big part of it too. Yeah. Or like exactly, like predict them before they even happen. Or if you do run into a problem, you have more solutions because you've like failed enough times where you have like these little tools in your tool belt that you've used before, and you can pull them out and be like, oh, I've dealt with something like this before. I know how to solve it.
Yeah.
And
that's so valuable. Satisfying though, when you can just like solve a problem and be like, yeah, I got that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I feel like for you, it's when you're doing production design, like that kind of problem solving is a lot more tangible. It's more like concrete. Whereas for me, like problem solving in painting is pretty abstract. It's like the problems that I'm solving are like, how do I, like what value do I use to create shadow that makes sense in like the lighting scheme of this painting? And like that's a problem that I have to solve. Or like, oh, how do I like, I don't know, draw this object from this perspective, whatever. And so like it's a little bit different. But I think it's like the same process at the end of the day of like
It is, definitely.
doing it a lot and finding solutions and then knowing like how to do it the next time. Yeah.
And with production design though, the problems can get a little too much because you're not only working with your own design and department, but you're also collaborating with the director and his or her vision and the cinematographer and the lighting designer, because they all have to just come together because the camera sees lights differently from what my eyes see, and the camera looks at the the setup in a way completely differently from what your eyes see. And then the lights react differently with the objects that I place as a production designer.
Yeah.
So I need to be extremely conscious and extremely aware of how and what I'm choosing, and also take into consideration the vision. If there is a client involved, then the client, the budget, time, because film is super fast.
Yeah.
Super fast.
Yeah.
So this cube set that I was talking about, it was a 2-day shoot. We prepped for 3 days, and there were supposed to be 4 sets.
Okay.
So it took me 3 days to build the cube with the yarn and the chaos and everything. And the next morning or next afternoon, I had to break it all down. And I had to break it all down in an hour and a half, prepare for the next set. And the next set had a reflection pool. So I needed water on the base of the thing. So basically I had to plan and prepare in such a way that both the sets were done together, and only a part of it is removed and the bottom remains. So it was a lot of planning and coordination with the producer now, because I had to finish everything in 2 days. The dancers, it was a music video, so the dancers had to be able to dance on it. And I also had to make sure that it was falling under the budget. And we had 30,000. It's like really
tiny,
fucking
right?
little.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not a lot of money for a,
And 4 sets, so.
And that's 30,000 crowns just to
Yes.
yeah. It's really not that much money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ended up spending 35 in total, which is still like, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so much pressure on a film set. Yeah. How do you feel about the fact that like when you're building a set or something, like you said, it's like this really intense work that you do over 2 days or 3 days, and then like it gets shot on and then it all gets taken down.
That's the best part. It's gone. You don't have to think about it ever again. I don't have to sell it. I don't have to store it. I don't have to do shit with it. It's gone.
It's all about like the process of making it, and then afterwards the object is just gone. Yeah.
It's gone. It's broken down and in fact thrown away or sold or whatever, like the materials basically.
Just like gotten rid of. Yeah.
I love it. That's the best part, because I really don't have to think too much about what to do with it after, and I can just be like, okay, next project, which is the best part, I think.
I think that's the best attitude to have as well, because like if you get too caught up in the product and it's like, oh, this is precious and like I don't know, it's like a little bit too much ego involved, and then I also think it's like it stops you from just moving on and making new right?
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And I also think like if I'm attached to something I make, then I don't think I'm gonna experiment with new things and explore new stuff. And I think I get super dopamine from new things, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try something different. Even with my career, I'm super hop, skip, jump. I'm just like jumping from one project to another, and it works out totally for me.
Yeah, because you want to be stimulated, you want to experiment.
And the same thing doesn't stimulate me again, which unfortunately is a bad thing, but
I'm kind of the same way, honestly. I get bored very easily. Like I need to be changing it up. But something I've been running into recently, which I'm like, I wonder if you have advice for me actually, or something to say about it, which is that like I've been painting kind of in the same style and like changing the subject matter and experimenting, but like it does feel sometimes like it's a little bit like I'm just using all of the same techniques that I've been using for the past year and a half. And I want to break out and like do something totally different. But sometimes I'm like a little bit afraid to do that, right? Or like, because like there's now like more stakes involved because it's my full-time job and I need to make money doing it. And so like the idea of like really taking like a full 360 and doing something totally crazy and weird and different is like, oh shit, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know.
Wait, is it about whether you can like mentally do it or
no,
like you're allowed to do it?
I think honestly it's a combination of the two. Part of it is like, am I allowed to, or like, will this work for me financially or like in terms of my brand? And then the other part of it is like my own kind of mental, the barrier that I've created of like being comfortable in a certain way of making and using these techniques and now,
it working.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's like, I'm not necessarily bored of it, but like it is getting a little bit more monotonous. And I feel like in the next 6 months or so, like I want to really just totally change it up. And like, I don't know.
Okay. One thing that I do though here is like completely separate my personal stuff with financial related projects, like money related projects. So when it comes to money related projects, I'm more focused on like what the client wants. And if it is my style that the client wants, I would totally give them that. But I'm not attached to it at all. But then when I'm doing my own stuff, I would like to experiment more. But I totally get it though if you're not like, yeah, like I understand your questions about whether it's going to work out for you financially or just work out for you design wise, or if you're going to like it even.
Yeah, exactly.
I get these questions. I understand them. Solution.
I don't know.
Collaborative projects.
Yeah, that's one thing for sure. Yeah. Like getting inspiration from other people or like working with other people. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so what kind of new style do you want to try?
That's the thing. It's not even like I have this image in my head of what I want to be doing. Like it's more that like I get the feeling that, you know, okay, I'll give you an example. Like I've done a lot of interior spaces with the paintings that I do, like especially over the past year. And I get a lot of like commission requests to do interior spaces. And I enjoy making them. Like it's not something I don't like painting, but I've done it so many times now that like even if the space is different or it's like based off of like, you know, reference images that somebody sends me of their apartment or whatever, like the act of painting it is kind of just, I'm doing the same techniques. It's like I have the steps, I know what I do first, I know like how to add the shadows, I know how to add the light, I know how to add the patterns, like kind of those techniques over and over. And what I would like to do is put myself in a position where I can like be really free and experiment and like just not even think, like get rid of everything I know and like relearn how to paint in a different way, basically.
Work with someone.
Yeah.
Let somebody else do the main designing part of it.
Yeah.
And you go in there to help.
Yeah.
And experiment with your style. And as soon as your styles mix, it changes things already.
That's true. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
Does that mean we should paint together?
We should. That would be super fun. Well, I think we're going to with the murals this summer too.
We
like,
are.
If you want to help.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We need to confirm that stuff, but
we
can talk about it. Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, let's paint together. It'd be awesome. Like I think
I don't have a style though, so.
But that's okay.
I'm just like.
I don't know. I feel like even if you don't think you have a style, you probably have some way of approaching a painting that like I wouldn't think about, right? So like I could learn from that for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Nice collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that about film as well because it's never your idea, and you're just not allowed to marry your idea. That's it, right? You constantly just have to keep adapting and changing because you have budgets to think about. You have creative inputs to think about. You have the client, the director, all the departments that come into the filmmaking spectrum, and it just helps to not have a style in a way. And I can provide you creativity, I can provide you ideas to execute something, but I'm basically feeding off of what you give me,
right?
And that makes me like easy to not get roped down into one type of working, you know?
Sure, yeah.
That helps.
But I think you have to be adaptable if you're working in that environment. You're right. Like, because I think if you had like one specific way of making stuff, then you're not going to get as many jobs.
Also, like a niche clientele and very, very small style of films that would match my work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But what about with like your illustrations and like drawing and visual art? Like, do you feel like you have? That's probably the cats. Yeah. Do you feel like you have more of your own style with that? Like, is that different for you, or is it still something where you try and be adaptable or flexible?
I'm really not confident with my drawing.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I've had it in me that I just have to recreate to practice and learn the techniques. So I've never ever put myself in a situation where I create something out of my head.
From imagination.
Yeah. And that's where like my limitations come in. And that's something I'd like to break, but...
So I can help you with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
We can help each other because that's something that I struggled with for a long time as well. Like when I started drawing, I spent a lot of time and energy copying work from other people or like using references or like which was good. Like I learned technically a lot of things that are very helpful, but in my mind, I don't feel like I started actually painting until I started using my imagination. Yeah.
That's good.
But the barrier for me was that like I got good at being able to recreate other people's images or like reference images. When I would try and do something from my imagination, it wasn't as good in terms of like the technical quality of it. And so comparing it, I was like, oh, well, this is worse technically. So I'm going to keep doing that because I'm afraid of making something that looks bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the way that I got over that, I mean, I think it's complex. There's not one answer, but one of the biggest things that helped me was being able to like recognize that even if it was technically less proficient, I was creating something that had uniqueness and had a style because it was coming from my own head. And the way that I interpret an image or an object is going to be different than the way you interpret it.
Yeah.
And so like leaning into the badness of it was actually like what helped me become comfortable with it. And now like if you look at my paintings, like it's not hyper realistic at all. Like it's very, very wonky and weird, but that's also what allowed me to create a style that was different, right?
But that's also a lot to do with your confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where my problem comes in. I don't think I'm really confident with my own mind, brain. So I kind of want to look at things. And also this other thing that constantly like pokes me in the head is, oh, this is not in fashion right now. This is not going to sell right now. And I'm constantly like, okay, what's in right now? What style is in? What colors are in? What kind of movies are in right now? And also just film being the film that it is, with like film critics and like festivals and people judging it, and this is how it has to be, oh, this is how it is, and the fact that it has to reach a large audience, and the idea is for it to reach a large audience and go as far as it can, it kind of limits me in my work. But I'm trying to also find a way to make myself feel satisfied with the work that I do, which is where my creativity comes in, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's complex. Like, I really don't know if I've figured out how to balance this out, because there is so many expectations from the end product.
Yeah.
But the process is where I like to get lost in. But I would also like to get involved in the end product, you know? Like, I want to have control over what I am creating.
Sure. You want to make things that are good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like a balance I need to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I don't know that I've figured that out necessarily either. I think it's like what I try and focus more on is the process, because like what I've found, like the more that in the past when I paid attention to like, oh, this is a style that's really popular of painting, or like this is what sells, or like this is what's getting into galleries, and I tried to do that stuff, I didn't really enjoy it because I felt like it wasn't me. And then also, like, if it didn't work out, then it's almost more disappointing, because then I didn't enjoy the process and the product is like not.
And you did your
valuable.
research and tried to like do as good as you can.
Yeah. And ultimately, like, you know, anybody can go and look what's popular and try and recreate it. And like that, even if you're able to do that well and you have some success from it, it will run out, because trends change and things that are popular change. And if you're always chasing what's going to like what's hot right now, that's an endless game you can
Man.
play for the rest of your life.
That's like I really need to bring a whip out and train my brain into not like
Yeah.
falling for this shitty trap.
Yeah. It's hard though. I think
Yeah.
with social media too, like we see so much shit now. And so it's really easy to look at it and go, oh, this is so popular. I want to recreate that.
And the algorithms, they're constantly feeding you the things that you're looking at, and somehow it doesn't change as well because you're constantly looking at similar things.
Yeah, that's so true.
And my brain is not wandering and experimenting new things, and I'm constantly in this one. Yeah, I just need to figure out how to break from that pattern.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that helped me with it. It
Okay.
might help you, it might not. And this is not something that I think everybody should do necessarily. I think a lot of people actually will maybe hate me for this, but I don't look at other people's art.
Yeah.
I don't follow that many artists on Instagram. I don't go out of my way to go and study masters. I don't go out of my way to look at art that I like. I don't go to a lot of museums. I don't go to a lot of art exhibitions. And I do it on purpose because the more that I look at other people's stuff, the more confused I get about what I want to make.
Also influenced.
And then you have like, you're like, even without thinking about it, you're trying to recreate something that you saw someone else do.
Yeah.
And then that's like a very frustrating process because you have this image in your head of what they did. And if you can't do it right, then you're like, oh, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. But the more I ignore all of that, the more I get in touch with my own mode of expression and creating that is unique to me. And you might not like it, but it feels like me. And like that has been a huge help to me, actually.
Do you ever look at references when you're doing that?
When I do paintings? Never.
Never. So everything is just out of your head.
Yeah, everything from my
when I'm
imagination.
put in a spot like that,
Yeah.
I just go blank.
Really?
Yeah, like for example, I'm looking at this cabin, and in my head, if I say cabin, I just cannot get pictures of cabins.
But it's probably because you're thinking about a complete image. And I never do that. I never go into it saying, I want to paint a cabin. I go into it with like, I want to paint a fireplace. And so I draw a fireplace. And I literally do it step by step. Like I'll start with like, okay, an arch or like a little like area, an alcove where the fire's going to go. And then I'll draw the flames. And then I'll draw the wooden, the wood that's burning. And then I'll go, oh, what else would work? Oh, now I'm going to do stonework around the fireplace.
That's
now I'm
actually
going to add
smart.
a chair. And it's really step by step. Like it's because the moment you try and have like an image, a complete image in your head, you're setting yourself an expectation.
Yes.
And expectation is like, it's very dangerous to have expectations like that because you're never going to be able
puts
to.
you in a box.
Exactly. As opposed to like, I think for me, like the purpose of creativity is to like kind of be free and open and allow the process to guide you towards a product, right? So yeah, something that works for me.
I totally agree with that because I used to be like, oh, I don't need to look at other movies. I don't need to whatever. Like, I'm going to just do creative things for the sake of creativity because I have too much creative energy that I just need to get out of my body.
Yeah.
And that worked for a while. And then I started teaching. Man, did that change. It's so crazy because I have to really look at movies and I really have to look at past existing content and compare and talk about how they made this happen. Because when you're talking to newcomers in film, you're constantly going back and saying, so this is how they made it. So now look at this one and then compare it with this one. How do you think they approached this one? And you're just constantly studying, and it shifts something in my mind. Which is one of the reasons I don't know if I enjoy teaching so much. I really love the teaching part of it.
Sure.
But I don't know the side effects of all of that if I enjoy it all. Also, it's a shittily paid job.
It's
so
which sucks. Like a teacher should
balls,
be paid so much more. But it's it's like almost like you start to, because I've done a little bit of teaching in my life as well, and like it's like you start to rationalize the creative process or think about it to a level that stops you from being able to feel it as much in a way, right?
Yeah,
it's like it becomes more
mechanical.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then it's like a textbook. You're like repeating yourself 1,000 times, and then you're completely lost. Because also, it's funny because when you are teaching adults, other adults really want steps and a technique and a way to execute something. And with me, it doesn't work like that. And that's just me. Funnily enough, that's just me. Because I don't think I've come across too many creative people. Not creative people is a completely different category. But I haven't come across other people who don't think too much. And for me, it's just like, I just want to do it. But teaching makes it very difficult to do that.
Yeah, you almost can't, right? Like it's you'd be doing a disservice to your students if you were just, you kind of have to prepare and do all of the legwork.
Balls.
Yeah, I know.
I just want to go out there and talk about my experience or just have them on set and be like, oh, see, that's how you do it.
I know. And in my opinion, that's probably a better way to learn.
Isn't it?
Yeah. But I guess I can't speak for everyone. There's some people who need the structure and they want to learn the techniques and all the steps.
Yeah.
But for me, like I couldn't learn like that. I need to just kind of do it and figure it out as I go along.
Yeah. I think that's also why I've always hated like the concept of school, or I've never enjoyed being in school. Man, there's so much like anxiety around just attending classes and submitting things and making sure I remember what they're teaching me, making notes. And I'm so lost and overwhelmed by making the notes that I have no idea what I'm writing. And I decided after film school that I'm done with school. Yeah. But I don't know, like learning on set has always been a lot faster and better for me because I'm just watching and I'm replicating the moves and two, adding my creativity to the technique. And it works out for me. And also it's a safe playing ground.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah. And it's also oh man, I just lost my train of thought.
Happens, right?
I remember. It's like you internalize things more. At least I do when I'm learning from experience. Where like if somebody tells me, oh, like even when people give me advice, like, oh, you shouldn't do this, or like, oh, just so you know, this is not the best way to approach this, whatever. I'm not gonna listen to people.
Yeah, I hate like, advice and instructions.
And me too. I'm very stubborn in that way.
Yes.
But like if I go out there and I make a mistake and learn that same piece of advice that somebody told me 5 years ago, now I will listen to it because I have to kind of teach it to myself, right? Yeah. So I don't know. Not everybody works like that, but I also think like sometimes people, I think more people could benefit from trying to learn that way. And as opposed to feeling like they have to go down this very technical route of learning something, especially when it comes to a creative skill. Like
don't you think all humans have this exact same thing? Like
I do in a way, but I also like I do know people who are a lot more kind of like practically minded and don't necessarily like learn. Yeah.
We should have learned a lot from history, but we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so you're not wrong.
We just have to fucking do it again.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But I think that's everyone.
Yeah.
People have to make the mistake and learn the hard way, and that's the only way humans learn shit. I like that technique though.
Yeah, I mean,
it works for me.
It works so good for me. That's why I'm glad I didn't go to art school.
It's
because
great.
if I had gone to like art school and studied painting, there would have been a lot of people who are probably very talented and experienced with a lot of wisdom. And I'm not knocking that, but because I'm an asshole, like they would have been telling me what to do and what not to do, and I wouldn't have listened. And then it probably would have been like, I think as a reaction to that, I probably would have been like, I don't want to do this anymore. There's too many rules. People are telling me what to do, blah, 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 which is kind of what happened after I went to film school, which is like, I don't want to do film anymore because it got too technical. And I'm very glad that like for painting, it really has just been me teaching myself because that has allowed me to keep being invigorated by it and keep feeling fulfilled by it because all of the lessons I learn are from mistakes I'm making on my own.
And also these mistakes are beautiful.
It's the best part.
It's my style. You can pass anything off as your style because it's coming from you.
Yeah, I think it's just about being genuine, right? It's like as long as you're creating something that really comes from within you and you're not like trying too hard to do something else, then it's your style. It's who you are and what you make. Yeah.
How do you feel about managing people when it comes to creating and creativity?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
I would say, almost impossible.
It's difficult because you're dealing with egos and multiple points of views and multiple types and styles of creativity, and you just have to take everybody into consideration.
Yeah.
It's such a nice light. You look nice.
I know, it's awesome. Thank you. You too. It's if it's too bright, we can get beautiful. Some sunglasses or something. It's a good question. To be honest with you, you probably have more experience than I do like actually managing groups of creative people. I have a little bit of experience with it, but not enough to really speak on it. And like in the few experiences I have had, it's been very frustrating and difficult. And I think you're right. Ego is a big part of it,
So big.
especially if you're dealing with someone who really thinks they're amazing.
And all of us artists are like that.
Yeah, that's true. I
You
think
think you're stubborn, so do I.
I'm stubborn, but I also like, I don't think I think I'm good at painting, but I also know that I'm not the best painter. And I know there's people out there who are much better than me. And so I try not to let the ego get too involved. I definitely have a big ego, but like, I think I'm learning how to manage it better. I think it's like,
Are you also learning it the hard way?
yeah, I think I learned everything the hard way. Is
There you
there
go.
an easy way to learn anything? I mean, but yeah, managing creative people is really tough.
It is because everybody wants to get their point of view across and everybody wants their point of view made because they're not, well, in film, it's like, it's somebody else's money, so it's somebody else's risk, but you get to creatively satisfy yourself. So you want to do whatever you can within the limited space. So everybody wants to do the exact same thing. I mean, in terms of doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
And it clashes a lot.
Yeah.
All the time.
It's so tough.
Yeah. And having to like deal with all of that and still produce something nice and working with the style and the story and the vision and it collaborating with all the other departments and all the other aspects of film, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, film, there's so many moving parts on a film set that even a small set, big set, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And there's also so many like pieces of the puzzle that are like actually pretty not creative. Or like very basic. And I think where you get into trouble is when you have like, let's say certain people who like are a little bit too like, I don't want to say don't know their place. That sounds kind of bad, but like they don't understand exactly that it is like a communal thing and that like, you know, you carrying this lamp or this lighting kit to some, like that doesn't need to be like the most important thing in the world, right?
But it is.
It is important.
The amount of time it's saving for the person who's actually like doing the thing.
Sure.
It's really helping. And
yeah.
Okay, sorry, I cut you off.
No, not at all. No, I think I wasn't saying that job is not important. It's very important. But I think sometimes, and maybe the like moving stuff is a bad example, but there's like certain, when you're on when you're in a collaborative kind of environment where everybody has their role and you all need to be working together, sometimes you have to suppress your ego and say, look, I'm just going to take a step back because it's going to make a better product, or I have to trust the process. And when you have 5 people who are all butting heads and can't let go a little bit, that's when things get really bad. I think. Yeah.
5 is also like never the case. It's usually 2.
Yeah. Even that is
but
bad,
even that's the worst, because then you have like 2 alpha dogs who are like, oh, and everybody's just like, okay, I'm just gonna wait until this rolls over and then I'm gonna get to work. But man, like also with film, it's different. Like even though the worst thing that I think about film is forcing yourself to behave. Because everything pisses you off. It just does. Because you're dealing with different people, different creativities, different points of views, different everything. And then you get affected by it, but you still have to behave. And I'm just like, I don't want to behave. I just want to throw shit up and just walk away. But I can't.
It's tough. You got to keep it in.
Yeah. And I think just like the end product, when everybody does their job, what they're supposed to do, the end product is very satisfying.
Yeah.
So very satisfying, even if it means destroying it in a day.
Sure. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. That's very true. Yeah. Oh man, I'm kind of happy I don't have to collaborate that much with, at least like I do a lot of collaborative stuff with my friends and like Fruit Juice Collective and things like that. But like most of the time I just get to be by myself. Yeah. And that's nice. That's like one person to deal with.
Yeah, I think I started out with directing. Yeah. And then I did my second year film project. And I got so annoyed with the amount of coordination and dealing with people that I had to do. And I realized production design was the least amount of collaboration that I would need. And I was like, yes, this is my department in film. Yeah. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm done with directing for film. But directing for theater, on the other hand, is completely different. You're one person, you're one story, and then you're literally controlling the entire thing.
Right.
So I come from theater background. Okay. So I thought when I was directing for theater that would be my thing. But then when I went into film, completely changed.
Interesting.
So
what do you
different.
mean with theater that it's like it's one person? It's because like all you're doing is dealing with actors or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're still the visionary, right? You have the lighting designer.
Yeah.
You're going to talk to them. You're going to look at the stage and you're going to be like, oh, that's exactly what I want.
Yeah.
You're still collaborating with someone, but you're still like the creative head in a way.
Yeah.
So and then 90% of the work is just acting.
Right.
And then there's like 10% of like the set, which you have to deal with, which is still a lot of creative control. Yeah, okay. I don't want to use control, but I think it is control. But with theater, that's the thing. Like I have to look at the actors, I have to look at the blocking, and based on the blocking, I get to decide what the set looks like.
Right. Yeah.
Even though it is collaborating with the designer, I'm still deciding whether I want it this way or that way or this works or not.
Sure.
And same with the lighting designer, for example.
Yeah, it's like a totally different role actually. Even though they have the same title, it's very different.
It's completely different. And also like with theater, it's once you start, there's no looking back. But with film, it's like cut. Once again, let's go. And
It's
300
true.
times.
That's true.
It's tiring.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
tiring.
like I mean I wonder if that's that I never thought about it like that, but it's like you have more opportunities to edit and change things and kind of second guess and get it's not quite right, let's do it one more time, as opposed to theater where it's like you have rehearsals obviously, but then when you perform it is what it is.
You make a mistake, you move on.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas with film it's almost like chasing this perfection all the time, which is
man, I don't know how I feel about that part. I think that's also why I did not want to get into directing for film. But production design, on the other hand, like I make the set and then I'm like done for a while. Yeah. And I get to watch the shit happen. Yeah. Which is great for me because I'm like, oh, okay, I did so much work. Now I get to like relax and enjoy my design. Yeah. That I like in production design for film.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I think it's like perfectionism to me just in general is like such a dangerous thing.
I think perfectionism is shit.
Yeah. I agree with you.
I hate it. And I think also I want to just create things for the sake of creating, and I don't want to be attached to it because it's just a lot of energy in me that I just want to get out of my body.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's it. And perfectionism comes in the way of that. Yeah. Because it's like, also I get bored really quick, so I need to finish something. And if I don't finish it, I never finish it. Like it's gone. Like there are so many undone projects that are just sitting there. Like there's this crochet thing that I started and it was taking so fucking long because I wanted to be sustainable and everything. So I took plastic bags, like the cheap ones from the bread and everything, like the rohliks and stuff, the orange ones. And then I cut them up into little strips and then I started crocheting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yo, it's such a long process.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be, yeah.
It's so long.
Yeah. So you gave up, you didn't finish it?
Yeah, it's in a bag. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think you will finish it?
Well, I do keep looking at it to motivate me to finish it, and it's been a year and a half, so I hope maybe in another year.
Maybe this podcast is what you need to go home and finish it. No,
it's not happening.
You never know. You never know.
Way too
it was worth a shot. Yeah, I really like. I had actually someone else that I had on the podcast. We were talking about perfectionism, and he's a filmmaker too. You might know him, Philip Stransky.
Yes.
Yeah, you know Philip.
Of course I know Philip.
Yeah. You guys went to school together.
Yeah,
I forgot. But yeah, he was talking to me about like how hard it is, like for him to like start projects now, like his own kind of personal film projects, like for his YouTube channel or whatever it is, even though he'll have like a bunch of footage and like a concept there, because he has such a high expectation for what he wants to create at the end. And it's like this never ending process of editing and re-editing and tweaking and where like, I asked him like, are any of your videos like finished? And he's like, well, maybe one, but even that one's like kind of like I could make some changes to it. And like the problem with that is for me, like I only am going to learn from an experience if I finish something. So like even with your crocheting, like I don't like, you learned a technique and you like, you know, got to experiment with it, but like there's something about having a finished product that for me allows me to go and reflect on it like in 6 months or a year or whatever and go, oh, that's what I could have done differently, or like I don't like this element of it, or sometimes like, oh, actually I do like this more than I thought I did. And like I don't think there's anything valuable about trying to like strive for perfection because I don't know that it really exists anyway, right?
No, perfectionism is just, I think perfectionism is a defense mechanism because you're constantly thinking about and dealing with your own self that you're unable to finish something or let it go, you know?
Yeah.
You're just holding on to it so badly that you want it to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a disease. Like, I hate it. It bothers me so fucking much.
Yeah.
And also, it just never gets me going. Like, I get tired of it and I get annoyed with it. And I'm just like, I'm never going to touch this again. I would rather like leave it in a room than be in a space where I'm like, I'm never going to do it again.
I see what you mean. Yeah. So it's not so much about finishing for you. It's more like, I'm going to work on it until I don't want to anymore. And then it's done. I'm not going to like try and keep like exploring it. Yeah.
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 Yeah. For me, it's mostly about the pent up creative energy that I just want to get out of my body.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what form it comes in. I just want to get it out. And then I feel like really light and calm. And also days have passed. I have made money and I'm like, okay, I like this.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. Do you ever have this, like sometimes what'll happen to me is I'll have an idea like right before bed or like I'll be, I don't know, in the shower, walking around, whatever it is, and it'll come to me. But like I'm in the middle of something else. So like, let's say I'm working on a painting and I have a new idea for something that comes into my head. I'm like, oh, that's what I want to paint next. And then by the time I finish the painting I'm working on, that idea is like, I don't want to do it anymore. Like it's almost like I need to act on them in the moment.
Yep.
As opposed to like trying to build up like a catalog of like, I'm going to do this and then this and then this, because then it starts to feel a little forced. I don't know. Like
I hate to-do lists as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, to-do lists kind of I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm stubborn and I don't like to do things that somebody else tells me. Like I don't like being
including
told.
yourself.
Including those to-do lists that I made. Like
Yeah.
So I hate to-do lists. I really hate them. And then it also just puts me in a space where I'm like, oh, there's so much more to do. And I don't want to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with also just like ideas and creating them, for me, I have to do them immediately.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's not gonna. Yeah.
Also, because there's ideas coming in and out all the time. It's which one I'm acting on. So I also have the confidence in myself that some other idea is going to come up. So it's okay if it passes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like, I think a lot of people think like inspiration is like, you have to wait for it. It's going to hit like blah, blah, blah. But it's actually the opposite where it's like, for me anyway, it's just constant. Like I have too many ideas and not enough time to do them all. And like the more that I act on ideas, the more ideas I get. So it's like kind of like feeding itself, where as long as I'm being creative and working on stuff, I know more ideas will come. And then once I get used to that, then like every new idea doesn't feel as precious anymore. Because like when I started painting, it was like, oh, fuck, like that's such an amazing idea. I can't forget about it. I have to blah, blah, blah. Whereas now like I have pretty good ideas quite often. Yeah. And I would honestly say like 60 to 70% of them never get made ever. Yeah. Because I just don't have time.
Also, you trust in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. It takes a lot to get to a point where you can trust yourself and be confident that, hey, you're an artist. You rely on your creativity. There's thousands of creative ideas coming in and out of your mind every hour. Yeah. And what you act on them is what matters. And you're also trying to make some money out of it and make a living.
Yeah.
While also trying to be authentic. So I think you want to just trust yourself that you have more ideas coming in and out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And at this situation, I think you're at an advantage because you can just pick and choose and be like, I like this idea.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I'm also aware that I will probably get to another point in my life where I run out of ideas because it's happened to me before. Like I go through like age. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Or alcoholism.
Yeah. Ugh.
Whichever comes first.
Yeah, I think I'm more in danger of the first one, but we'll see how like the rest of my 20s go, and then maybe the second.
Rest of your 20s? Yeah. I'm so happy to hear that because it sounds so positive. Because I have like 1 year left.
I have 2
in my
years
20s.
left, so yeah.
You're 94 born.
95.
Oh, you're a baby.
You're the second person to call me a baby on this podcast.
Who's calling you a baby first?
Vinny and Holden.
Oh, Holden called you a baby? Isn't Holden a baby?
He's 29.
Already?
And
He's
so
93
is Vinny.
born.
Yeah, they're the same age. I'm the young one.
Oh my God. They're older than I am.
Really?
Well,
Are you
okay.
94?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I give you company.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We're basically the same age. Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. I wanted to, something you said reminded me of this. When in your life did you start seeing yourself as an artist?
Oh, that's just me. I still want to be a painter. Like that's artist in my head. I'm really trying to change that, but all my life.
It was always there. It was just like a part of your identity.
My mom's a painter and she does traditional tanjore painting.
Okay.
So basically she works with gold and embossing and tiny little stones. And she makes traditional gods and goddesses. And I grew up watching her do this and all sorts of art because she's super creative as well. And I don't know, I just imagine myself to be like her. And she had such a great time painting because she would do all the housework. Housewife, right? So she would take care of me and my brother, send us off to school, make breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we Indians eat a lot of food. So like every meal is elaborate. So she spends hours in the kitchen. And then we have maids, because Indian maids, just because they're going to do the job, it doesn't matter. You still have to stand behind them and make them do the job. That's a job in itself. So she does that. And then when she has some time, she has students over and she sits down and then she's lost for like 4 hours. And I love that.
Wow.
And any problem she had, she would just forget it. She would just forget it when she's painting and it would be like super exciting for her.
It's like her escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really love that idea. And as long as I don't even know how long that I've thought of wanting to be an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like you had the influence of an artist in your life, right? Which probably made it easier for you to think of yourself as an artist as well.
Yeah. Also, the Indian society doesn't pay artists too much, so it isn't looked as or it isn't perceived as a career path that is ideal for people in general, or like for upper middle class. I would say it's not ideal, right? So having my mom be the artist was making it easier for me to like make that path because my dad was super supportive of my mom. My brother was super supportive of me and my mom. My brother's been the one guy who's made every first investment. My iPad, my computer, my Wacom tablet, my first play, my first movie. He's my first investor. And he's also like, he's a business guy. So he would always give me money and he'd be like, you need to make more money. Return it to me with interest. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And that always like pushed me to do that.
Yeah.
And my dad just appreciating the fact that I'm like my mom made it so easy for me to imagine myself as an artist.
Yeah. You're really lucky, you know.
So
I think
so lucky.
I'm also lucky. My parents are very supportive as well. But I think a lot of people don't have that. And it's I really can't imagine, but I can guess that it's much harder to feel like it's okay to pursue art or any kind of creative pursuit if you don't have some kind of support system or people who are behind you. So it's a good thing. I think at the same time, it can also be a motivator if you feel like you're not supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Like
I think it's a mix, right? Like now I know that it's super difficult to make money.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest aspect of being an artist that kind of slashes my idea.
Of course.
That I cannot make enough. I make money, but I don't make savings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, you survive.
Yeah, I survive.
I'm the same. Yeah.
And I don't like the idea of surviving. I want to do more than just survive. I want to thrive. And I have this image of myself in my head where I want to travel and blah, 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 all that millennial jazz that we all do and want to do. But I think now I constantly go back to like where my community comes from and where my thought processes come from and how they're constantly saying you can't make a life like this.
Yeah.
And it keeps coming back, and then I'm like, no, I'm gonna prove you motherfuckers wrong. Like that's where my stubbornness comes into play. So support and stubbornness in a way.
I think we're very similar in that way because like for me, I could have kept doing film, and there's like I think more of an opportunity to make a living pursuing film because there's just like more money in that industry, and like I purposefully have chosen painting instead because it's so hard.
And
Like
it makes it so much more satisfying.
exactly. And
I
it's
love
also
it.
like I almost needed something to be up against because I had such a supportive family and like I could do anything. And I know my parents would be, you know, like support me and as long as I was happy, you know, like, and so it was almost like I need to give myself this obstacle to make sure that I have something to fight for and like be up against. And for me, the obstacle is like choosing a career path, which is maybe one of the most ridiculous and like impractical things you could possibly do with your life. And I wouldn't want it any other way. Like that's part of the reason I do it actually.
Yeah, that also makes you special. And I love being special.
Yeah. I don't know that it does.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Of course it does. You're making a life as an artist in Prague. You have this beautiful studio that you're paying for.
It's true.
You have these beautiful cats that you brought.
Yeah, that's true.
You did all of this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I don't see it as special though. For me, I see it more as like I'm just like becoming more and more in tune with who I am and what I want and bringing that into reality. It's like I'm going to be myself to the most degree that I can. And like, it's almost like for me, that process has been like slowly over the years, like uncovering more and more of what I am and who I am, and then allowing myself to express it.
But you know, this is what therapy does to like 90% of the population. So you are special. You're using it yourself.
I've also been to a lot of therapy, so I can't give
go.
myself
Therapy
all
helps.
the credit. Yeah, of course, yeah. Therapy's fantastic, and
Therapy's
podcasting is
awesome.
kind of like therapy too sometimes, which is fun. Yeah,
yeah, that's true though. Like also, like man, every time growing up, right? Like my formative years, like 15 to 25 something. Every time I saw somebody who's an artist and who's doing art for a living, and I had no idea whether they're like making enough money or they're having a satisfying life, or I had no idea about any of that, but it's just the glamour of like artists, you know? It always caught my eyes.
yes.
And my eyes would be like twinkling at them and I'm like, wow, I want to be just like you.
But I'm exactly the same way. Like my whole life, the only people I ever looked at and was like, God, like that's awesome. That's what I want was musicians or painters or artists, creative people. Like I saw, it wasn't even about being famous or well-known, or it was just like the fact that they got to like make stuff
every day
was that very much was like the only thing I wanted to do. But it took me a long time to like identify as an artist and a creative person and realize that that was who I was.
So how long did it take for you?
I didn't start seeing myself as an artist till I was probably like 22. So like not that long ago, like 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I still remember though, because when so India, we have classes in school and college and blah blah blah. Like it's like a fucking factory because students go in and come out as engineers or whatever.
Sure.
It's stupid as fuck.
Yeah.
And I never liked it. Just the idea of school system always bothered me. And I still remember till date when I had my exams, I would go up to my mom and I'm like, yo, okay, I need 40 marks to pass this exam. I'm going to study for 40 marks and I'm going to write for 40 marks. And that's it. Because I don't need any of these certificates for like my life.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do any of this.
You knew.
And
yeah,
I knew. And my mom always supported that because she knew that none of these technical things would function for me. Like they just won't work. Yeah. And I still remember how I never even cared much about school. I was never a good student at school. None of my papers were written well. All of my certificates looked like shit.
Yeah.
It totally worked out. Like I can always imagine, I can remember that I've always imagined myself to want to be an artist.
Sure.
But I think only after I came here and started doing the stuff that I'm doing, did I call myself an artist.
There's
like I knew
there's
I
a
wanted
difference.
To be.
Yeah. That's a good distinction to make, actually. Yeah. Between like kind of, knowing that you're creative or it's something you desire versus feeling like you're actively participating and it's like something you can identify as. Yeah.
When I started paying rent and when I did my first taxes 2 years ago, that's when I'm like, yes.
You're an artist. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now
That's
I'm
so
doing
true.
this for a living.
Yeah.
There's no going back.
Yeah. It's funny. I have like for me, I was like always pretty good at school. Like it came easily to me. And I think it was actually a bad thing in a way.
Why?
Because it came easily and I got good grades and it wasn't something that was like made me really stressed out or frustrated. it made it harder for me to feel like, oh, I could do creative stuff, because it was like,
unlearning.
I have all of these other options too. Like I could do this, do that, and like I almost wish that I had just been like a total dumbass or a terrible student and only cared about art, because then it would have like kind of directed. Well, actually, I don't wish that. I'm happy with the way things worked out. But
because in that case, it would have totally targeted your self-esteem.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's a good point.
The stubborn person that you are, you would be like, fuck this shit.
Yeah. But I still kind of have that attitude, but maybe not as much
It's
as
an
I would
awesome
have.
attitude, I think.
Yeah, it is to a certain degree. I'm, I also try and be like conscious of the fact that like I can come across as a little bit like antagonistic. I have some strong opinions, especially about the art world and things like that. So yeah, I don't know. But
so like anti-opinions from the regular opinions.
I don't even know if they're like, I think a lot of people probably share them, but I'm like pretty like militant or like aggressive about some of my opinions. And like, I've been hesitant to like be totally public and open about some of them just because, I mean, it's nothing crazy.
Tell me one.
It's more just like, I don't really love the way that galleries work and like the official system of like promoting yourself as an artist and going through it. Like, I just don't agree with that. And a lot of people don't, but like, I have a pretty strong stance against it. And like, I like am careful about basically not getting in trouble, but more and more I'm like, fuck it. Like I don't really care, you know? Like I would rather just express what I really believe.
Because you're still doing what you want to do the way you want to do it and not relying on these stupid Oscar setups.
For sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the same, right?
It's exactly the same.
Yeah. And also I think being a freelancer gives me a lot of mental freedom and also trust in myself that, I don't need to be a part of this crap. And still people want to work with me, and still people trust with me or in me the amount of money that they are investing.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's huge amounts of money.
Yeah. That's
right?
Yeah. And also I think like I'm realizing more and more that like I need to kind of, you know, express what I believe in. If people agree with it, that's great. Then those people will like me and enjoy what I do. And the people who don't, like, that's fine as well.
You just know that they don't work and it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I like that because it always helps me. Like, I don't fit in everywhere. I do try to fit in somewhere because like masking and constantly like chameleoning myself. But this not agreeing with people really helps me decide and figure out whether I like them or not. And that really, really helps me a lot.
Yeah. See, that's something I'm still learning because like I have a tendency, if somebody doesn't like me, like I internalize and go, it's wrong with me. Something wrong with me, not that they're an asshole or that we just disagree on something. Yeah. I'm a lot better than I used to be, but it's still something that I'm trying to figure out about myself.
I'm on the other extreme. I'm like, fuck you, I am right. which is fucked up in the other sense as well. But balance.
Yeah, I know. Everything is just constant balancing act. Like there's no
end. You know, like when I'm playing sport or anything, my balance is so fucking off.
Yeah.
And I always thought my balance in life is also off with the same thing.
Like metaphorically and figuratively.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting.
But I think I'm okay balancing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And therapy.
Yeah.
And
that helps
just
too.
Living life the way I want to live it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only way to live.
Yeah. Right.
I would say so.
Do you have non-creative friends? Like
lots of them.
Lots?
Yeah. I really value them and appreciate them. And I'm glad that I do. I like being around people who do different things in their life and can teach me. And I don't know, that I can spend time with where I don't have to turn on that creative part of my brain or like even be thinking about that.
Yeah.
And I also like, you know what else I like about it is like a lot of my creative friends, like it's amazing to have a creative community and people building you up and supporting you because we understand what it's like to be a creative person, especially if you're trying to make a living out of it. It's tough. So we need each other to like support and build each other up. But if that's the only people you're surrounding yourself with, at least for me, that has a negative effect on my ego because I get a little big headed. And so it's nice to have friends who are, you know, like marketing people or like people who work for big, like, you know, companies or whatever it is, like corporate stuff. And I like that because a lot of them really don't give a shit about anything that I do. Like they're like, supportive and they're like, cool painting or whatever. But like, they really don't give a shit. And I love that. Like sometimes I need to go and have like beers with people who are just like, I'll tell them what's going on. They're like, oh yeah, cool. And then they start talking about some like, Excel document they're working on. I need it.
Really?
Yeah,
oh my God. I need to change my perspective on that. For me, it's the opposite. And I'm just like, no, I can't have this conversation with you. I need something more like exciting. And
I know what you mean. Yeah. I used to be like that too. Like I wanted every interaction to be like something profound or interesting, exciting, but that's exhausting. And what I've found too is that a lot of the times like interesting people or people who are like a little bit wild or give you like an interesting conversation don't always make the best friends. And
That's
like
true.
more and more I enjoy having like, consistent people in my life that I love a lot and I'm very close with, and we can connect on a lot of other levels. But like in terms of what I do for my work and what they do for work, like there's not a lot of like crossover.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing actually. Yeah.
The big-headedness for me comes from hanging out with these people.
Really?
Because they're like, oh wow, it's so cool. And I'm like, yeah, it's very cool. And then I'm like, no. And then when I hang out with creative people, they're instantly able to spot like what's wrong and how to improve and what
So
needs to happen.
Yeah.
Especially in film, because you're constantly being broken down from every different department.
Yeah.
And it kind of works for me here. On the other side, I get big-headed in a way.
Wow. It's like the total opposite
Yeah.
then. That's
Over
so
there, I'm like the
interesting.
coolest person and I'm like, haha.
Yeah.
But that's the cables.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
Just being careful there.
Come here. Come here. Come here. Yeah.
Prarthana, anything else you would like to add or say or ask before we wrap this up?
See,
Or
when you put me
plug.
on a spot like that.
Take your time. Yeah. Anything you want to promote? I don't know.
Promote myself. No, I'm kidding.
For sure. Go for it.
Well, not much thoughts really. It was super fun talking about creativity because I don't get to do this often.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I surround myself with enough creative people. I want to do that.
Like more of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe you should have all the people that were in the podcast party.
Well, honestly, most of them will come to our shows, I think. Like that's kind of,
Awesome.
that community. But this is also a big reason why I started the podcast and something that so far, like I'm already feeling like fulfilled by it is just like getting to connect with other creative people and try and like also bring all of us together a little bit more. Because I mean, I think there's a lot of creative people here and we just don't know a lot of them, or we've like met them and don't spend time with them and get to know them. And I think it's good for us to build a community and try and help each other out as much as we can.